Hey everyone, and welcome to another spoiler talk on Thorgi's Arcade, where we come in here and we just have a little bit of a discussion about the story of a video game that we just finished playing. And on the last episode, I asked you guys, what do you want to see us talk about next? What's the next game that you want to hear us do a spoiler talk on? And then Mortal Kombat 11 came in here with one of the biggest surprise storylines of the year and just shoved all the other competitors out of the way. I'm gonna be honest with you guys right now. Half this video is going to be us going, okay, let's talk about this moment, let's talk about this moment, let's talk about what happened in the story. And then the other half of this video is going to be us going, so now what happens? What is the future of Mortal Kombat at this point? So this should go without saying, but if you have not played through Mortal Kombat 11 yet, or watched a Let's Play on, or basically experienced the story for yourself, stop. There's plenty of people out there who have already recorded it. If you don't want to play through this thing, even ones that didn't do any commentary on, just go check out this story mode, because the end of this thing is such a surprise. And that's really saying something, considering that in Mortal Kombat 9, they came in here and just completely flipped the entire table over. Like, if you had the entire plot of Mortal Kombat just laid out there on a table in front of you, they came in here, just flipped that thing over. At the end of Mortal Kombat 9, they went back in time, rewrote the history of the first 3 games to have it end with like 80% of all the heroes dead, including Liu Kang, the guy who had been the protagonist of the majority of this franchise, the guy who was the original hero of this series. Yeah, he died at the hands of Raiden, the one good elder god who we all like. Yeah, he ended up having to turn on Liu Kang, but because of good reasons, and it was this whole weird, crazy thing. And then with Mortal Kombat 10, they came in here and basically they retold the story of Mortal Kombat 4. Well, whatever story there was in Mortal Kombat 4. That was the one that most of us don't really talk about. It goes Mortal Kombat 4 and Mortal Kombat 8. Those are the ones that no one talks about. But they brought back the villain from that one to try and redeem him, try and make him a big badass again, and they did. They made him a big badass. That was actually a really darn good game. However, they didn't just come in here and go, oh yeah, and 4 happened right after 3. No. They said that because of the events of Mortal Kombat 9, now Earthrealm has been at war with Outworld for several years now, and there is a brand new generation of heroes, the children of the original heroes, and now they're leading the charge against this big badass. And I love that. If you guys know me, you know that I am a fan of whenever they come in here and they go, let us tell the story of the next generation of these heroes. I always enjoy stuff like that. But it did, again, come in here and change a lot of stuff around. At the end of that story, Raiden, who, again, despite the fact they had to kill Liu Kang, he was still a good guy, but he got his hands on Shinnok's amulet, and the evil energy from Shinnok's amulet started to corrupt him, and it turned him evil. Well, evil-ish. He was still a good guy, but he was now kind of like the Punisher of gods. He was like, yeah, I'm still here to protect Earthrealm. But if any of you even think about looking at Earthrealm the wrong way, there's gonna be hell to pay. That's basically the Raiden that we had now. And now this one starts about 2 years after that. And I should also point out, I completely forgot to even mention this, but all the good guys who died in Mortal Kombat 9 have been resurrected as revenants, which are basically evil magic zombies. And they were working for Shinnok, but now Shinnok was dead. So now, the good guys were now in charge of Outrealm. They were now in charge of the Netherrealm. They were in charge of basically this universe's version of Hell. So you had Liu Kang and Kitana, the 2 nicest, best people in the entire franchise, now evil and wanting to destroy Earthrealm. And Raiden was also kind of evil, and the heroes were the kids of the original heroes. Yeah, they came in here and they just changed everything up. So when they announced that in Mortal Kombat 11, the story of it was going to involve time travel, I will admit, I was not excited like everyone else was. I looked at that and said, isn't that literally what you did in Mortal Kombat 9? But they did kind of explain it in a way that made me accept it. What they explained is, hey, there is a god above all the other elder gods, and that is the god of time. And they had a very specific plan for how all this was supposed to work, But then Raiden pulled his time-traveling mumbo-jumbo in Mortal Kombat 9, and because of that, it screwed up all of her plans. So she is now going to attempt to correct things. She is basically attempting to rewrite all of history. And I looked at that and I went, you know what? If you are going to do time travel again, it's time travel that has to do with the consequences of the last time that you did time travel. That actually makes sense. I actually can understand that. It's not just you pulling out this gimmick again. No, this time travel is happening because of the stuff that happened with the previous time travel. Makes total sense to me. Great. Okay, so I'm on board all over again, and was going to involve the heroes and villains of the past meeting their present selves. All right, that's kind of a cool idea, especially when you consider that you would have, like, say, Liu Kang and Katana and Kung Lao meeting their current evil versions. I think that's actually awesome. That is something that I was not expecting. However, they do something pretty early on in this that had me a little bit disappointed. Because at the beginning of this thing, you have got the, again, I don't want to call him evil, but you've got the kind of anti-hero version of Raiden. Let's go ahead and put it like that. And we have skipped ahead by 2 years, so these heroes have seen Raiden acting like this for about 2 years, and Johnny even has this line about how, yeah, he doesn't know if he's really okay with Raiden's more proactive, let's go kick everyone's ass lifestyle. And I thought, okay, there's some stuff we can explore. The heroes may be realizing that Raiden has gone too far. And this whole idea of the darker evil reign, it's stuff that they've played around with in the previous Mortal Kombat timeline. That is something that happened, but those games didn't really have that much of a story to them. So it was basically, hey, Raiden's evil now. And by evil, we mean, you know, he's wearing darker colors. That's a thing now. But now we actually had semi-evil Raiden in the story. And we could actually explore that and see what it meant. And then almost immediately in this story, he is just Thanos snapped away. He just fades away into dust. And I looked at that and thought, so are we getting him back? Is he, like, that's a really interesting part of this story. I really want to see where that goes. Come back, almost evil Raiden. That kind of seems like a big plot line that could have been something interesting. And no, they just kind of sweep that under the rug. And spoiler alert, that never really comes back. Like, at all. So yeah, I am kind of miffed at that. I am a little bit disappointed that they took this really interesting idea with Raiden and just immediately got rid of it. Speaking of something else that they immediately got rid of, here's something that I was not expecting to happen at all. Sonya Blade dies. Like, immediately, before the first chapter is even done. Like, they didn't save that until the very end. They didn't save that for, like, the big, tearful farewell. Someone has to sacrifice themselves at the end. So this character who has been here ever since the very beginning, they're gonna be the one doing it. No, this game opens up with her dying. And I was genuinely shocked at that. However, aside from the shock, I didn't really feel a whole lot for that moment. Partly because I hate critiquing anyone's acting, but yeah, Ronda Rousey is not a good actress. I really hate saying that because I can't act to save my life. You guys have seen the skits we do on this channel. You know I suck as an actor. However, yeah man, she just really couldn't make me feel any emotions for that character. I will say the moment where she's saying goodbye to her daughter, it is the best performance she gives in the entire game. So I'll say that. But the second reason why I didn't really feel anything was I've just never really cared about Sonya Blade as a character. I never really have. On the list of characters I enjoy in Mortal Kombat, she's way down at the bottom. I never really cared one way or another about her. She was always just such a bland character to me. But the third reason why I didn't really feel anything is, yeah, I was shocked, but then I immediately had that shock turned around as I went, the entire point of this game is time travel. It's going up. It doesn't matter if she dies. It doesn't matter at all, because they'll just bring her back. In fact, she destroys their tower, but we saw in the trailers, they're going to raise that tower back up. And sure enough, Kronika comes back in there. She raises that tower back up. And I was like, and Sonya Blade is going to be alive inside because everything was reversed. She's going to step out now. Now. Okay, it's not happening now. But later on in this story, you know there will be that surprise moment where they have to go back into that tower, and then it turns out, oops, Sonya Blade was left alive in there, and now she's been in hiding in this tower the entire time. no, that never happened. Like, I was really expecting that moment where all of a sudden it would look like, oh, one of our heroes is captured. Someone has to go in there and save him. Like, Liu Kang gets captured later on in here. I was like, oh man, what's gonna happen to him? I know. Sonya Blade, adult Sonya Blade, she's been here the entire time. Okay, she's gonna come out. She's gonna come in here and save him. Okay. No, didn't happen. She actually died. Like, it was not until the credits were rolling that suddenly it hit me. Oh my god. That was an actual death of a character. Of a major character who had been in this franchise from the very beginning. So that was kind of huge. And the emotional stuff did not stop there. This really was the most emotional I have ever seen a Mortal Kombat story. In fact, this is neck and neck with Injustice 2 as what I think is the best story mode we have ever gotten in a fighting game, which makes sense because this was actually written by the same people who wrote the Injustice 2 storyline, but they knew exactly how to take the development that we have seen with these characters and really lean into it, which is something that you should be doing when the premise of your story is time travel. The exchanges between these characters, it really holds a lot of weight. For example, all the stuff that happens with Jax. Oh my goodness. I did not think they were going to go that deep with Jax. When you see that Jax is just running around the house looking for the phone to be able to call his daughter and then it still can't get reception. Oh my goodness, just Jax, this big, badass, like immovable mountain man that you have had in the previous games. Now he is just an old guy who is dealing with trauma and his wife passed away and all he's got is his daughter and he's worried about what's happening to his daughter and he is just there looking around the house for his phone. That's not something that you picture your heroes doing. That's not something that you picture the big, shining A-class characters who have been total badasses for several games now. You don't picture them running around the house in desperation looking for something like a phone. But it was such a human moment. And it totally captured, yeah, after all the stuff that Jax has been through, this really does show you what he's like now. It really does make you realize how human he is and all the horrible things that have happened to him. And then when Kronika shows up and basically does the whole like, come with me to the dark side speech, you can understand it. I don't look at that as like, oh, Jax, what happened to you? I look at it as like, yeah, I know what happened to you. And I can't exactly blame you for going, oh, all these are the terrible things that happened to me in my life. This lady has time travel powers and can undo all that. She can bring my wife back, make it so that I never became a revenant, make it so that I never spent years just living as a monster. She can undo all that stuff. Yeah, you know what? Maybe I'll sign up with Kronika. Maybe I'll join her side. Just saying. That seems like a plausible thing for Jax to do at that moment with how this game was able to depict where he was in his life. I totally bought that. So that's amazing that it was able to take the hero turns to the dark side trope and actually made me think, yeah, I buy it in this instance. With all the stuff that he's been through, I totally buy it. However, speaking of Kronika's plan, here is one problem that I have. She wanted to bring to the present several of the villains from the previous games. So she brought back Shao Kahn, which I love seeing Shao Kahn's reaction to Outworld not being ruled by him. I love seeing his reaction to Kotal Kahn now being in charge. And also like Kotal Kahn say, like actually being the good guy in this situation and saying, well, we're offering aid to any refugees and you are in a very odd way a refugee. So even though I hate you and you're a monster, I will offer you my help. Which I would just go ahead and say, I didn't give a crap about Kotal Kahn in the last game. I thought Kotal Kahn was also kind of a little bit bland in the last one. He was like, I am the ruler of Outworld. That's my personality. I'm very strict, everyone. In this one, they give him so much depth and so much personality. I love Kotal Kahn after this game, which kind of makes me sad about what might happen in the next game, but we will get to that in just a moment. So yeah, I love seeing the villains from the previous games all coming back around. I did kind of have a problem with Aaron Black coming back around because I like Aaron Black in the last one because like I said, I'm all about personality. And Aaron Black had this big, like, mystery around him. Why is there a cowboy from Earth helping all these bad guys from Outworld? What's his story? What's going on there? And here we get him from the past And you don't really get a lot of that. I mean, here you get like an excellent opportunity to really explore who this guy is, why he became the person that he is. No, you get literally nothing on that. And also, he's way more of a stereotypical cowboy in his younger days. So in the last game, when we were following his present, man, this is going to get confusing fast. But in the last game, when we were introduced to present day Aaron Black, he was kind of this badass Clint Eastwood man with no name mystery cowboy, and you really wanted to know more about him. And even though you don't learn more about him, when you see what his younger self was like, it almost kind of feels like a kid who just really likes cowboys. Like, it just kind of felt to me like, oh, you don't even feel like this is genuine. You feel like I just really wanted to be a cowboy. So, okay. Like, if the present day Aaron Black was spaghetti western man with no name Clint Eastwood cowboy, it feels like past Aaron Black was like those 1940s, 1950s black and white cowboy movie style cowboys, which maybe that was intentional. Maybe that was them saying, hey, what's the past version of 1970s cowboys? 1950s cowboys. Yeah, but they're not as cool as the spaghetti western cowboys. So, yeah, Aaron Black is the one guy in there who I did not really get a lot out of when they returned. But Shao Kahn I loved. I actually liked Baraka for the first time in any of these Mortal Kombat games because, again, you gave him some depth. Like, in the past, it was like, yes, I am a Tarkatan warrior. That's all there is, and I'm really mean. But here you actually almost get like a sense of honor. You get a sense of like clansmanship they had with the other Tarkatans. You really kind of get a sense of his background and why being a Tarkatan is important to him. I really enjoyed that about this. It was really amazing to me that for the first time ever, I actually kind of like Baraka. He's been in this game since the second installment, and it took this game, Mortal Kombat 11, 9 installments later to actually make me go, oh, he's actually kind of cool. This is actually an interesting character that I want to follow. But we also know, for Kronka's big plan at the end, she also needed young Liu Kang. That was all part of her plan. Why the heck is young Kung Lao there? Why the heck is young Katana there? Why is young Sonya Blade and young Jax and young Johnny Cage? Why are all of them there? It never really made sense to me why she would want to bring them from the past. Like, even past Raiden would make sense. Again, I kind of hate that present day Raiden disappeared as soon as past Raiden got here. Although, when we saw what happened to Kano, when Kano was murdered and he faded away, which, holy cow, another moment that I did not see coming, and it really speaks to how this game was willing to come in here and just go, we're just going to change everything up. Everything is getting changed on this one. I love that moment when she shoots young Kano, and you just see old Kano not feeling so well, and he just fades away. I thought that was an amazing moment in here, and I absolutely loved it. But as soon as you saw it, that's how an older self fades away when the younger self dies. I then thought back to how Raiden faded away, and I just went, oh, Raiden's going to die in this game. Raiden is 100% going to die in this game. And I don't know how I feel about that. I'm gonna have to wait and see how they do it. Gonna have to wait and see how they do it on this one, because Raiden has kind of gone from being the kind elderly god who's just there on the human side to being an MVP of this franchise ever since Mortal Kombat 9. It feels almost like since Mortal Kombat 9, Raiden became the backbone of this franchise, and I really did want to see what was gonna happen to him. Speaking of the other heroes from the past who joined us here in the present, again, this game did a lot of great work just making me fall in love with the personalities of these characters. Jax, I always liked Jax because when I was a kid, he had robot arms, so I just thought that was really cool. And he also made earthquakes by punching the ground, which I just thought was an insanely awesome thing to have happen. But again, he was kind of like Sonya, where aside from what was there on the surface, there wasn't a lot else there. I think he established himself as being a flat-out badass a little bit more than Sonya did. But again, that could just be the metal arms talking. I like in this one, he's very mature, at least his younger self is. I talked about his older self and how you just feel for that guy so much. But his younger self, he's hearing about all the terrible things that are going to happen to him in the future, and he's hearing about from his own daughter, and he's realizing that I have to let these horrible things happen to me so that she can still be born. And I love his reaction to all that. I love that he just has this very like, you know what? I'm gonna get through this. Like you can just feel the determination coming off of him in that. And their story gets pretty dark. There comes that moment in which he sees that he is going to have to fight his older self because his older self turned to the dark side. And that line about let me settle this between me, myself, and I love that because it just speaks to his character. And again, he didn't even have that much character other than just being a badass up until this moment, but it is a cool badass moment where he steps up there and you can only imagine all the stuff that is going through his head in that moment. But nah, he is going to face off with his older self because even if that is not his daughter yet, even if that is not going to be his daughter for 20 more years, he is not about to let his daughter fight her dad. Like, it's amazing to me how even though they're the same age in here because of time travel, Jack still is kind of a father figure to Jackie. I actually really dug their interactions in here. But my favorite interactions in this entire thing have to be Johnny Cage and Johnny Cage. Young Johnny Cage being the arrogant douchebag that we all remember him being, and then the older Johnny Cage, who for 20 years now has been working his ass off to try and look after this planet after all the other heroes died. I love seeing how far Johnny has come. We did a top 10 greatest Mortal Kombat characters countdown right before the game came out, and Johnny Cage came in at number 3. Spoilers for that video, but he came in at number 3, and I said it was all because of how far his character has come. Yeah, the interactions between them in this nailed that. And as I said, the people who wrote the dialogue and the people who wrote this story, they knew how to give everyone character. And yeah, Johnny Cage was always just kind of a douchebag. But they played into that so incredibly well that it wasn't annoying. And part of the reason why it wasn't annoying was because you had old, responsible Johnny Cage there to slap him in the face. But also, anytime that Johnny started to lean into being a complete asshole, he would give you a little bit of a hint of why he was an asshole. Like that moment there in which he is just going around being a complete jerk to everyone there at the compound, and old Johnny pulls him aside, and young Johnny says, hey, Dad always says hungry people eat, humble people serve. And Johnny, old Johnny, doesn't even miss a beat where he's like, Dad was an asshole. I love that you can just tell in those moments how much of a crappy upbringing Johnny Cage had, and how much of that is still weighing on younger him, and how much older him has to have progressed and grown over those 20 years. It is an amazing way of showing character growth there. But even young Johnny, you get moments of seeing him starting to become the old Johnny. There's that moment where he is beaten and battered and he gets thrown to fight Sonya Blade there in the Red Dragon headquarters. And he is going to let her beat the crap out of him. And she's like, take a dive. And he says, look at these people. They know a dive if you see it. That actually shows that he's kind of smart. And remember, Johnny Cage is an actor. He can probably read people. He can probably tell when other people can identify an actor. He could easily just have taken a dive, especially considering, like I said, he's an actor. He probably knows how to act. But in that moment in which he says these people would know a dive if they saw it, it shows that he is far smarter than we give him credit for. And it shows that he's also not that arrogant and he's not that selfish, that he's going to come in there and try and fight Sonya. He knows he can't, and he knows that she is better equipped to escape from the Red Dragon headquarters. So he's going to just let her beat him up so that way she can escape. So that way she can actually formulate some kind of a plan. It shows so much in that moment about his character. Wow, we were like 20 minutes into this thing, and it's just dawning on me now how much more there is to still talk about in here. I haven't even talked about the fact that we got a buddy cop chapter between Sub-Zero and Scorpion. If you saw that top 10 list we did of the best Mortal Kombat characters, I said that Sub-Zero and Scorpion were the top 2 best characters in this franchise, and not just because they were the poster boys of Mortal Kombat, but because they had actually had the most growth out of any characters, especially Scorpion. Think about the fact that Scorpion is a guy who started off in this franchise basically as an evil spirit, as someone who had died and now come back from hell only seeking revenge. But over the course of this franchise, he had scraped and clawed his way back to humanity, trying to reclaim the person that he was and now he had rebuilt his clan, and his clan was now a force for peace. They were trying to help Earth protect themselves from Outrealm. He was taking in refugees from Outrealm to try and help them as well. He had reestablished this father-son connection with Takeda, so he had reclaimed some sort of a family in there. It is amazing to me, the progress that this character has made. And also considering the fact that Scorpion and Sub-Zero, they were the biggest enemies in this whole franchise. I love that in this game, they continued where their story left off in the last game, where they had actually kind of found peace with each other. They had realized that they did not have a reason to feud, and that they should be working together. And in this one, you see them actually working together. And I love that it's not like this, okay, well, we'll work together, but I still don't trust you. No, you can kind of tell that they've had each other's backs for a little while. And I love that we actually got to see the return of Frost. Because Frost, when she first appeared, she was actually one of my favorite characters. Not because she had any deep lore to her, but because, you know, hey, I was in high school and I like Sub-Zero, and now this was a new Sub-Zero, but with spiky hair. And I was a high schooler, so that was a cool thing. No pun intended on cool thing. But she finally returned, and I love what they did with her character in here. Because in the previous games, all you really got of the story was after you beat the game, you would get a little description that says, and then they went and they did this. Or if you found their alternate costume in the crypt, you would get extra information on their backstory. So I always knew that Frost was this person who was part of the Lin Kuei, but they were kind of opposed to Sub-Zero. Sub-Zero thought that they were a loose cannon, so they didn't trust Frost, and Frost didn't take kindly to that. I love that in this game, they took her and just made her an asshole. I always enjoy just flat-out asshole villains. The ones who are just basically the spoiled child. Because to me, there's nothing more frightening than a spoiled child with superpowers. There's nothing quite as sinister as someone who just really feels like they deserve to have things. And if you don't let them have those things, there's gonna be some hell to pay. So I always enjoy those villains. I know they are kind of flat. I know they are kind of one-dimensional. But I think that Frost actually does have some depth to her in her one-dimensionality, which I know is a weird sentence. But think about the fact that she's got this size of an ego. She believes that she deserves to be this special, but because of that, she wasn't about all that patience and meditation and discipline that the Lin Kuei teaches, and she also wasn't about peace, which is what Sub-Zero wanted to turn the Lin Kuei into. So I can actually look at that and look at her one-dimensionality and think, man, she spent years and years trying to turn Sub-Zero to the dark side, and Sub-Zero eventually had to banish her, and without the goodness of Sub-Zero there to basically rein her in, she just went nuts. Again, it's like a child. It's like if you take a child and you just let them loose in a candy store and it's like, listen, the parent isn't going to watch you, and the child, they don't care whether or not they get in trouble for stealing anything, so they just start stealing all the candy in there. That's kind of what Frost is. And again, I know I'm not describing her like she's some big, evil, menacing villain, but she's not the main villain. She's the henchman in all this. So when it comes to henchmen, I kind of do enjoy villains like that. I kind of do just enjoy spoiled, brat, asshole, henchman villains. And that's basically what Frost is. Frost went over to Kronika and restarted the Cyber Lin Kuei specifically so that she could then be turned into a cyborg. She sacrificed her own body just to show Sub-Zero. She had her body destroyed and put into a cybernetic organism, all just so that she could then turn to Sub-Zero and be like, aha, I showed you. And there's something so psychotic about that level of dedication to just trying to prove someone else wrong. And it really makes me appreciate her because, as I said, not only do I enjoy the henchman villains who are just assholes, I enjoy the henchman villains who are just psychopaths. The ones who are just nuts. And that's kind of what she was in this game, so I really enjoyed that. But speaking of Scorpion and Sub-Zero, I cannot believe that they actually killed Scorpion. Which, granted, there's time travel in here, so they kind of have an out on this. Because after they kill him, the older Scorpion says to the young time-traveling evil Scorpion, listen, this is all the good that's happened. This is the good stuff that you've done. There is hope in you. You can recover. The Shirai Ryu, it can come back. And then there's that moment right after that where the young evil Scorpion goes to the Shirai Ryu clan, and he looks around and goes, oh my god, it actually is back. And yeah, you feel something for Scorpion in that moment. But as I said, I just made that video in which I said Scorpion is the best character in Mortal Kombat because of all the progress that his character has made. And they killed that character in here so that we could get young asshole Scorpion back in here. And yeah, I kind of look at that and feel like, oh my god, you just flushed all that progress down the toilet. I mean, it's very sad. I actually could not believe they did this. But it did also kind of upset me because I thought, so you're gonna take that character who had all this progress and just go, yeah, but give us the evil Scorpion. Give us evil Scorpion again. Let's just go right back to that. But it does set up hope for that young Scorpion in here because he ends up seeing, oh, things did become good. And at the end of this, he does end up helping out the people from Earthrealm, rebel against Kronika. And I looked at that as like, wow, you basically kind of had the entire growth and progress of Scorpion over all these games boiled down to like maybe an hour in this game. And yet they made it work. I will say, for the character who many people would argue is the #1 spokesman of this franchise, it is kind of bizarre to me that was D'Vorah that took him out. But we were playing this on Twitch, and someone said, yeah, but D'Vorah worked for Quan Chi, and Quan Chi was the one who ended up basically tormenting Scorpion, and he's the one who was the actual architect of everything terrible that happened in Scorpion's life, and he tormented Scorpion for all these years, and he used him as a puppet for all these years. But Scorpion got his revenge on Quan Chi in the last game. The only person that's really left who has connections to Quan Chi is D'Vorah, so it's like, oh, you know what? All right, I see that. Okay, if anybody in this game was going to take him out, I guess when you put it that way, it kind of makes sense. All right, fine. I'll let it go. However, as I said, I was kind of upset that young Scorpion was left here because I looked at that and I said, wait, so you're just going to take the character who has had all this progress and just take us back to original recipe Scorpion? I don't know how I feel about that. None of that matters. None of that matters in just a couple moments. Holy cow, I have not even talked about the fact that Kitana ended up killing Shao Kahn. Good for her. That's all I really have to say. No, I'll go into a little bit more detail on that. Because I was actually going back through and looking at the story mode of Mortal Kombat 9, and I did have this thought where, oh yeah, it's always been Liu Kang who took down Shao Kahn. Liu Kang or Raiden who took him down. And yet Kitana is the person whose father was murdered by Shao Kahn. Her mother was mind-controlled by Shao Kahn. She was forced to be Shao Kahn's adopted daughter, and she was just tortured and tormented by Shao Kahn for her entire life, and considering that she's from Outrealm and she's an Edenian, her life is a very long period of time. So she's been tormented for centuries by this guy. Her entire family, her entire homeland was destroyed by this guy, and yet it's just this random guy from Earth who's the one who ended up taking him down. It is kind of not exactly right. It just doesn't feel right that it wasn't Kitana who ever took Shao Kahn down. Those were the thoughts I was having when I went back and looked at the storyline from Mortal Kombat 9, and in this one, Kitana gets to take down Shao Kahn. Thanks to time travel, she gets one last shot to do this, and she does it, so hooray for that. That's good storytelling. The character who has suffered the most at the hands of this character should be the one to end up getting their revenge on that character. That just makes sense to me. And they did it. And I applaud them for that. However, again, in the end, none of this matters at all. Because in the end, you get the big battle with all the races from all the previous games all coming together. And they're all there. It's this amazing shot. I was so happy to see Shiva return, and I love the redesign of Shiva, by the way. But you've got all of them all coming back together, and they all go into battle against Kronika's forces. And you've got like Jax, he makes his full turnaround, which was an amazing moment. That moment with the two Jaxes punching that monster together, giving each other the greatest fist bump of all time. Yeah, that was a hell of a moment. But they go charging in there to the battle, and Liu Kang has been kidnapped, and evil Liu Kang, the evil future revenant Liu Kang, wow, these are weird sentences, he ends up taking the soul out of young Liu Kang into himself so that he's now powerful enough to destroy Raiden and get his revenge on Raiden. And I looked at that and I just thought to myself, how much more can you possibly do to Liu Kang? This guy, in the previous timeline, he was killed, brought back as a zombie. In this one, he was murdered, brought back as an evil magic zombie. He's now the main bad guy in here. What else are you going to do to this guy who used to be the hero of this franchise? And I do really enjoy seeing Liu Kang's reactions throughout this storyline. I do really enjoy seeing him, hearing all the terrible things that are going to happen to him, about what Raiden had to do to him in order to save the world. And I like seeing that Liu Kang is still like, no, take the peaceful route on this. I'm sure that Raiden had a reason to do what he did. It really does kind of speak to the good nature of that character. And I do enjoy also that Kung Lao does not quite have the good nature of Liu Kang, because there are certainly moments in here where Liu Kang is like, no, Master Raiden, I understand you had your reasons. And Kung Lao is over there just giving him the stinkiest of stink eyes. Which that never really came back around. I kept waiting for a moment where like Kung Lao would end up betraying Raiden or something like that, or be tempted to go to the dark side. They didn't do that. I'm kind of glad they didn't do that. But on the other hand, why kind of give us those moments where it looked like he might do that if it never even really comes into play? That was a little bit odd. But as I said at the very beginning of this video, it was kind of weird to me that we were doing the whole time travel thing again when we just did that 2 games ago. I mean, heck, it kind of feels odd that Shao Kahn returns in this one, and it's supposed to be a really big deal when we just had him 2 games ago, but you have to remember, it's been 20 years in this game in between those 2. But yeah, it felt kind of weird to me that we were just doing time travel all over again. But then it got to that moment where Raiden started to get tempted by the Dark Shinnok amulet again. He turns on Liu Kang, the 2 of them fight, and then he gets all these flashes of all the alternate costumes you can give these characters in this game, really trying to get you to go and unlock them in the crypt. We already made a video about that, by the way. But you see all these different alternate versions of Raiden and Liu Kang fighting, and it goes back to Mortal Kombat 9, when Raiden had to fight Liu Kang to stop him from challenging Shao Kahn, because it was all part of his plan to stop Shao Kahn. And it makes you then realize this has always been the plan. Kronika needs Raiden to kill Liu Kang. That is part of her master plan. And he realizes in that moment, they've done this dozens and dozens and hundreds and countless times before. Which that is a huge revelation to make, because think about what that means. That means that this big battle that they are now having with Kronika, the biggest baddie that they have ever gone up against, they've actually gone up against her countless times before and lost every single time. They just don't remember it, because if they lose, it means the universe is rebooted. They have lived these lives so many times before, looking slightly different each time, in slightly different locations, maybe having slightly different names, but still the same characters exist. However, they keep dying over and over again. Liu Kang keeps dying to Raiden over and over again, because that's part of Kronika's plan, because she knows that will be the thing that she needs to have happen in order to corrupt these people so much that basically she can just reboot the entire universe. That to me made the stakes seem so much higher, because you know that the good guys are going to win, but when you come in here and reveal, oh yeah, even if you lose, you're not going to know that, and you're going to do this again and again and again, over and over again, because you've already done it over and over and over again. It just makes Kronika seem so sinister. It makes her plan seem so much deeper. It seems like something that is inevitable. It seems like something that you just cannot fight against. And as I said, when this thing began and old Raiden came to the present and you saw present Raiden fade away, after you saw what happened to Kano when his younger self died, I went, oh, younger Raiden is going to die in this. But there comes the moment in which he is fighting Revenant Liu Kang, and he realizes, I can't fight you. This is part of Kronika's plan, and I refuse to let this happen to you again. So he does the unexpected. He fuses with Liu Kang. He fuses past Liu Kang, present Liu Kang, and present Raiden, or past Raiden in the present, whatever. He fuses all 3 of them together to create a brand new Elder God. He basically turns Liu Kang into an Elder God. And then you just follow Liu Kang as he goes, he stops Kronika, but not before Kronika pulls the greatest fatality of all time. Because Kronika basically erases everyone. That is the crazy thing to me. She wins. Let's just go ahead and say it. She halfway wins. Because they were trying to stop her from erasing history. From just going back and resetting everything at zero like she has done hundreds of times before. And they couldn't stop her from doing that. But they could defeat her. He goes in there and he is able to actually defeat her, but not until after she has actually reset everything. So everything involving all these characters from the previous games, from this game, everything, it's gone. It's all been undone. And the only one that is left there is the new Elder God Liu Kang. And a very human-looking Raiden. Like, he doesn't have the magic glowing eyes anymore. And they have this really sweet moment. They have this really great exchange between the two of them. And Raiden ends up saying something to him about, you're going to need someone here to help you watch over everything. Someone has to watch over this and make sure that the universe is restarted. And make sure that everything is guided. There needs to be an Elder God looking over all this. And you, Liu Kang, you're it. You're the last Elder God. But you're going to need someone here to help you. So he summons Katana. So now you've basically got an Elder God Liu Kang and an Elder God Katana as the new gods of this new Mortal Kombat world. I love that ending. And partly because the exchange there that they have at the end, in which Raiden says that they'll see each other again, and Liu Kang is like, well, then I guess I don't need to say goodbye, or whatever the line is that he says to him. But basically, it's a I'll see you again kind of line. I love that. Because, yes, we think about like Mortal Kombat 9, in which Raiden had to turn on Liu Kang, and Liu Kang had to turn on him, and then they've been evil in the last game, so they did have to basically be on opposite sides. But this game, it really did remind you, oh, these guys, they were working hand in hand. They were a team. This was the student and the mentor for all these generations. It was even more than a student and a mentor relationship between them. It was kind of the chosen one and the chooser of the chosen one sort of relationship. And you do realize the relationship that they've had over the course of all these games. And this moment made it all come back here at the very end. This moment in which they were saying goodbye to each other without really saying goodbye. More of a I'll see you next time kind of thing. It brought all those feelings back around. And I love what they have decided to do with Liu Kang and Katana now. Because Katana, she's got an interesting backstory. But the main thing that she needed to do was kill Shao Kahn. And she did it. They let her have her moment in this. They gave her that revenge that she has always needed. So they made that happen. But when it comes to Liu Kang, he's been the protagonist. He was the protagonist for what, the first 3 games, first 4 games maybe even, all the way up until 5 when they decide, hey, Liu Kang is kind of boring, let's kill him. Because Liu Kang is kind of boring. And that's the problem with Liu Kang. As I said many times over now, we did do that top 10 characters from Mortal Kombat countdown, and Liu Kang, the protagonist for the first several games, was nowhere on that list. Because despite being the guy who came in here and saved everyone, yeah, he's basic fighting game character number 3. That's basically what he is. He really had nothing going for him. What's the interesting thing from his past? He was raised by these monks. Okay. Anything else? Not really. No. What's his personality like? Well, he's a really good, peaceful guy. Okay. Anything else? No, not really. That's all there really is to him. So, in a way, you have to pay Liu Kang respect. Because he was the hero for several of these games. He was the guy who went in there and he stopped Shang Tsung. He's the guy who went in there and he stopped Shao Kahn. He's the one who saved Earthrealm several times over. But yeah, he's not a very interesting character. So what are you going to do with him? Oh, let's make him the new god. Let's make him the guy who now isn't here to be the protagonist. He's now the guy who basically stands outside of space and time and just makes sure that this world is looked after. Make sure that everything goes well. That to me is a very respectful thing to do with his character, because it pays the respect to what he meant to this franchise, to the fact that he was the hero of this world. But we don't now really need him here anymore. He's got a bigger thing to do. We don't really have to follow his stories. We don't have to worry about him being the protagonist anymore. He gets to stand outside of these games now and just be something bigger, something more important. It is kind of like saying, hey, I'm the whole reason why you guys are here. Because, yeah, he's the guy who saved Earthrealm several times over. He is the reason these games are here. But now we don't really have to worry about, him actually being here anymore. So yeah, I think this was the absolute best thing that they possibly could have done with him. Because he's a character that nobody really always wanted to follow the adventures of. We don't have to follow the adventures of him anymore. But he is now still getting the hero send-off. In fact, he's getting even the bigger hero send-off. He's getting the biggest promotion you could possibly give to a character out there. So yeah, I think what they do with him is amazing. But now it brings us to a question. Now it brings a very large question around. What the hell is going to happen in Mortal Kombat 12? Because everything is gone. Everything is gone. Kronika did it. She got us back down to the dawn of time, to the Big Bang. The only one that's left is God Liu Kang and God Kitana, who are just going to be there watching over everything. So I doubt they'll actually be in the next game. They might be there. They might be the new Raidens. They might be the new Elder Gods who are there to fight in the story mode. So they could still appear, but they will definitely be appearing in a very different way. But you have to stop and think, okay, so Liu Kang now has to rebuild the universe from scratch. Do you think he's going to just try and make it exactly the same? Because something tells me that if Liu Kang was in charge of this new reality, the moment that Shang Tsung starts studying under some evil sorcerers who are going to teach him how to steal souls, Liu Kang might intervene and go, let's get you to a different school, kid. You don't need to learn from these evil wizards. No, that's fine. The moment that Shao Kahn decides, I'm going to start conquering different places in Outrealm, I think God Kitana might step in there and go, the hell you are. Yeah, you leave Adenia alone. So it makes me wonder, all right, how much of the story is going to be the same? Are we going to just kind of pick up where we left off? Because they could do that. They could come in here and say, all right, well, we have to be responsible gods and make sure that we don't tamper too much and make sure that the world is still left as much the same as it was, and that includes letting all the bad stuff happen, even if we don't want it to happen. I don't think they're going to do that. This really feels like a giant, massive, fresh start. But as I said, do you really think that Liu Kang would let the bad things happen to these characters that happen to them? He was friends with these characters. He knows these characters. Do you think he's going to let all this terrible stuff happen to them? And if the terrible stuff doesn't happen to them, and if, like, say, some of the big villains from the previous games don't start up again, is that going to give us completely different stories now? Because think about it this way. Shinnok was the child of Kronika. Shinnok ended up helping to create Quan Chi because Quan Chi was a disciple of Shinnok, and everything that Quan Chi did was to help bring about Shinnok. And Quan Chi is responsible for some of the biggest events in Mortal Kombat's history. He's the one who killed Scorpion's clan and ended up turning Scorpion into an evil spirit and pitted Scorpion against Sub-Zero. So if Shinnok isn't around because Kronika isn't around, that would mean that Quan Chi won't be around. So Scorpion won't end up being evil and hating the Lin Kuei and end up killing the first Sub-Zero, which ends up creating Noob Saibot. Yeah, none of that stuff is going to happen. But then you also have to think, oh, the whole reason why Sonya Blade ended up getting involved in the tournament to begin with was because Kano ended up killing her friend. Do you think that God Liu Kang would let Kano still kill Sonya Blade's friend? Little stuff like that. So that would mean that stuff involving those characters probably never would have happened. All the stuff with Sonya Blade and Jax involving the tournament, that probably never would have happened. But again, do you honestly think that there would even be a tournament? Do you honestly think that the whole rules that the Elder Gods had established of, oh, the realms are allowed to merge with each other if you win Mortal Kombat tournaments this many times in a row? If Liu Kang is the new king of the Elder Gods and Liu Kang and Kitana are starting all the new Elder Gods, Do you think he would actually come in here and go, hey, you know what? In case an evil dictator from another dimension wants to take over the Earth, he just has to win Mortal Kombat so many times. No, I don't think he's going to establish those rules. So all those rules are out the window. And as I said, even if they create those rules, I can't imagine God Katana allowing Shao Kahn to ever rise to power. I can't imagine God Liu Kang allowing Shang Tsung to ever go down the dark path. So my question is, what are we going to get in the next game? So either, this is what I think we're going to get. Either they're going to kind of pay respect to all the stories and the characters we've been following, and they're going to have Liu Kang Katana say, well, no matter how much we want to change things, we can't really change things. And that'll just kind of be a cop-out. I can understand wanting to still pay respect to all the characters that they've created over the years and all their stories and not have them just come to an end right there. I can understand them wanting to keep as many characters around as they can, but it still feels kind of lazy to me with this opportunity being presented to us to come in here and say, well, let's just not change anything. So I don't really think we're going to get that. So the two most likely options we're going to have is either it's going to be a story that kind of features similar faces, but in brand new roles. Like, for example, let's say that Shang Tsung is still there, but he said, oh yes, I was going to go down a dark path, but then Lord Liu Kang came to me and he told me all about the Shaolin monks. So I came here to study how to use my magics. So now you've got good Shang Tsung. And maybe you've got the Edenians, led by Lord Katana, ended up creating a giant, massive world of peace in Outrealm. So you've got people like, say, the Tarkatans, who were these monstrous, savage people in the previous games. Now they're like the honor guards of the Edenians. Now they're respectable, noble warriors who would never go down the darker paths that the previous Tarkatans had. Maybe you've got a Scorpion in here who never turned evil. His clan never died, so he never ended up going into the afterlife and ended up becoming this evil spirit. And instead, you've now got Scorpion as a human who never turned evil as a character in here, but maybe, I don't know, his wife is also a character in here as a fighter. You've got the original Sub-Zero in there who never died and never ended up becoming Noob Saibot, and he's still a character in there. Maybe you've got Jax in there, but Jax never ended up losing his arms, so he's still got the human arms. Heck, you could go really nuts with this thing and have it be that Jax never ended up losing his arms, but Sonya did, so Sonya is now the one with robotic arms. You could go completely crazy with this. You could go in insane directions with this game, taking these characters that we know and tweaking them severely, taking them in very different directions. Heck, what if in the next one they ended up screwing up and something went wrong, and yeah, they created peace in Edenia, but now Earthrealm is the evil ones. Earthrealm became too powerful, and now they're the ones trying to evade Outrealm. Who even knows where you could take this? Or the other option, and I would say there's like a 50-50 split between the option I just gave you and this option. The other option is total fresh start. Complete 100 fresh start. No returning names. Returning mythology. Returning stuff like, oh, there is an Outrealm. There is Edenia. There is Earthrealm. By the way, I just realized I've been saying Outrealm this whole time. It's Outworld. There is an Outworld. There is an Earthrealm. There is an Edenia. There are things like Tarkatans. There is the Shirai Ryu. There is stuff like the Lin Kuei. But all the characters are completely different. And as I said, you could still make reference to the existence of the other characters. Like you have someone else who is now in Special Forces, but they mentioned that, like, you know, Jackson Briggs is like their commanding officer. But you never really see Jackson Briggs. Instead, we're just following this new character. You could have someone briefly make mention of a Johnny Cage movie, or like they're battling on stage and in the background there is a poster for a Johnny Cage film. Because you have to also remember, if they remake the world, but say time-wise, everything remains roughly the same, that would mean that by the time the next game comes out, it'll have been about, what, 30 years since the original Mortal Kombat, meaning you could have a lot of these characters never have experienced Mortal Kombat in the first place, and we saw what their lives would have been like if all the terrible things that happened to them had never happened to them, and they went on to just live normal lives. But they still exist in this world, and now we've got this new generation of completely 100% brand new characters. existing in this world. Like, for example, you have a member of the Shirai Ryu, and he is someone who was trained under Scorpion. But of course, this is a world where the Shirai Ryu never disbanded. They were never killed off because there was no Shinnok to lead to that. Yeah, I have no idea what they could possibly plan for the future of this. And when we were watching those ending credits, I kept going, there's gotta be an end credit sequence. There has to be an end credit sequence that gives me an idea of what is coming next. Because, you know, in Mortal Kombat 9, you get that little hint of Quan Chi like, ah, yes, Master Shinnok, it is your time now. So it's like, oh, Shinnok's coming. And then in Mortal Kombat 10, oh, you saw Evil Dark Ray in there, which that never really went anywhere, and we went in a completely different direction. However, it did still give you a hint of what was coming up next. There's nothing in this. They could actually end the franchise here. This could be the final Mortal Kombat for all we know. They could come in here and just be like, yeah, you know, we did this for a long time, and it's time for us to do something else now. I don't think they will. I don't think these guys will ever leave Mortal Kombat behind. But it does raise the question, what are you going to do next? Because there wasn't even an end credit thing to give us like an idea of what's coming next. So again, it could just be, hey, we're returning to the present. We've still got Sonya Blade, and we've still got Johnny Cage and their kids now still running special forces and fighting Outworld. Nothing's really changed, but I think there's maybe like a max 5% chance of that happening. I would say then about 50% chance that it will be the characters we know, but things will be very different with them, and 45% chance that it's just completely fresh start. Totally new characters. And either of those last two options, I'm 100% on board with. Not that I dislike where we are in the current Mortal Kombat stories. Not that I dislike, say, the Combat Kids. I don't. I actually like the Combat Kids. I love older Johnny Cage, having shown all this progress. I love older Sub-Zero and older Scorpion, showing all the progress they've made. But if you're going to come in here and go, everything was erased, and now you, Liu Kang, must create a new world. Yeah, man, you got to give me something different. You got to really mix it up. So I can't wait to see what they're going to do. Let me know what you think they're going to do down in the comments below. Let me know what you thought of this story mode, because as I said, this to me was up there with Injustice 2. I don't want to spoil Avengers Endgame for anyone, but I will just say it's so weird to me that this and Endgame came out in the same week, because both of them were like, look at how far we've come. Look at everything that we have done in this franchise. And now we're going to give these characters the perfect send-off. Like, both of them really felt like they were going for that tone, and I honestly think for the Mortal Kombat fans, this nailed it about as much as Endgame did for the Marvel Cinematic Universe fans did. So let me know what you thought in the comments down below, and if you like this video and you want more spoiler talks and you want more reviews, remember we do have the official Mortal Kombat 11 review coming up. Should be up in about a week. Make sure that you click that subscribe button, ring that bell, follow us on Twitter at Thorgi's Arcade so that you make sure that you don't miss it, and you can also follow us on Twitch at Professor Thorgi. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Come back next time.